Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers. In today's video, we're looking at another non-combat ship, and this one is great for transporting people from space to a planet or from planet to space. This is the CBC Surface Blue, which is this lovely thing that I'm standing on. So this is a small block ship that looks very much like a modern train, to the point that if you remove the thrusters on the side and added the wheels, you could get a very good little train out of this. Pressing F10 and finding this in the spawn menu, the Surface Blue is 788 small blocks, using the Sparks of the Future, Warfare 2, Heavy Industry and Wasteland DLC packs. We also got a nice lot of information about it on the Steam Workshop page, such as a little story behind it of what it can do, the specs of it, as well as the component costs to build it from scratch. So give this thing a thumbs up. We'll move around towards the very front, we'll have a quick look around the outside, a quick look at the interior, we'll fly around for a bit, then I'll send it to its doom on planet Pertam, which has quite high gravity, to see how well we can do that with the last second parachute. So at the very front, and if you're wondering about the background, is a failed skybox. It was here before I started recording, but now it's just sort of vanished and left me in the abyss. Yes, at the very front, what we got is a bunch of small block windows where we can just about make out our seats behind it, as well as a couple of LCDs on the wall. We've got one hell of a lot of white steel blocks making up the main body, apart from a little bit of grey and a little bit of red here and there. As we move around onto the side, there is a wasteland spotlight attached onto the side of an atmospheric thruster, and there's a little bit of red just above our windows for your passengers to peer outside. There's a couple of ion thrusters to help you out in space, and I will mention now that this uses all three types of thrusters, so you're good no matter where you are. Yes, that's our window to peer inside. There's our ion thrusters, there's some magnetic plates underneath to land this thing down on, a couple more atmospheric thrusters next to our doorway to get in and out. There is a doorway on the opposite side, just in case you want to use that one. And towards the very back here is our hydrogen thrusters to boost us around. We've got some nice use of our armoured panels and barred window blocks for some decoration covering up the sides of those thrusters. And at the very back, this is all we can see. So we've got a blaster edge block, we've got a small little battery down there, they're just moving up and above and turning my light off. There's some more ion thrusters, there's 2 of the 4 parachutes that appear on this ship, which are always useful in an emergency if you run out of fuel, or if say your thrusters got damaged. There's the main body, not too much else to talk about on there, but we can see the edges of our red that goes near our windows. There I am standing on another set of parachutes, and there's the window at the front. Dropping down and coming underneath it, there's our magnetic plates, there's some nice use of our cylindrical columns, as well as our ion thrusters for our left and right. There's some more magnetic plates, there's the bottoms of our atmospheric thrusters, then right towards the very back, even more ion thrusters, and a bunch of O2H2 generators and batteries to keep this powered and topped up with fuel. And so there we go. That's a very brief look around the outside of the CBC Surface Blue. That looks great with how it's been set up. It really does look like a train with thrusters, and I am quite fond of this design. But what I can do now is just grab hold of my character and we can come around to the door at the very back, which is open up this, hop on inside. There is no double door for an airlock, so it might be a good idea to depressurize the interior before opening and closing that door, just to save on a bit of oxygen. We'll turn around and look at the very back first of all. What we've got is a small cargo container, which is going to be for our parachutes, so you can easily load the canvases inside, like I did right here. You could also use this to put in a few bits and bobs like some guns, some ammunitions, or even just put ice in for your O2H2 generators. As for that, there's our air vent. Then looking down, not too much to talk about, but we do have some beam blocks for some decoration. Just turning around and facing towards the front, we've got some small block chairs, which are such a great addition to the game. They work so well on so many designs. And yes, your passengers can just sit on here, have a little chat to each other, look around. And there we go. Just hopping out of that and moving towards front, we've got some great use for our neon tubes acting as handlebars. And coming over to this section, these are our windows, where that red strip of blocks will be just behind that neon tube up there. Yes, we can't really see too much because the skybox is, well, currently missing. Then going towards front there, we've got 2 more access points, which is going to be for our parachutes to manually load them up. So unlike the one at the back, we don't just have a general cargo container to link them all together. We do have a couple of lights, and there's the LCD screens we saw at the front, showing us our time, our weather, our planetary gravity, and the time of day. So just hopping into the sea and looking around, this is all we can see. So we do have a very limited view. It would be probably a good idea to slap a few cameras on here, so you can make sure that you're landing properly and not going to slam into the ground. At the front, what we got is another LCD screen telling us our controls and what this ship's purpose is. We can see a reminder to equip your helmet and suit, and then in emergency, deploy the parachutes. And then we got our controls, which is always nice to have on our screen in front of us. So yes, the controls. Number 1 is for our ion thrusters to turn them on and off all the way around their ship. Just doing that like so. There we go. Number 2 is then for our atmospheric thrusters to turn them on and off. And then number 3 is for our hydrogen thrusters, which are for these two and the back. Number 4 is for our parachutes to manually open and close them, just in case we need it, like it said on the LCD screen in an emergency. And as for that, that's that for the controls. So what we can do now is just move forwards and test out the thrusters. So here we go with the 2 and the back there, we've got some bloody great speed. And then coming to a stop, we are much slower. So we will need to be careful with charging along towards the station, or we can do a 180 and just about turn around, there we go, start boosting forwards to stop ourselves a lot quicker. Moving left and right is very limited. Yes, we are extremely slow with that. Moving up, we should have some nice speed, not as fast as going forwards, but it does feel a lot faster than say stopping and left and right. Then moving down is going to be affected by gravity because as you can see just about at the bottom of the screen, we are on 0.06 G's of gravity. But as for that, that is it for the controls of the ship. That's it for the outside, the interior, and of course a test of the thrusters. So what we're going to do now is let it fall down to the surface, and then at the last second we'll try and save it to see how well this goes. So to help this thing speed along towards the surface, I've tilted it backwards using the full power of those hydrogen thrusters, and we're going to charge all the way along until we start to get close. Then I'll rotate this around and deploy the parachutes. And yes, as I said when I got into the sea, it would be great to have a camera on this because it's very hard to judge how close I am to the surface. And there's the wreckage of one I was testing out a little bit earlier. But this looks like a good enough place to tilt all the way up. And now we're going to just go like this. Going to open up the parachutes. Hopefully they'll deploy in time. I did have some issues with it not deploying. And there we go, there they go. Hopefully they'll slow me down. And just in the nick of time, look how close that was to the ground. That's actually a really nice setup. I'm not sure if that's intended or not. Yes, the parachutes deploy, and the vehicle ends up in this kind of situation where the full power of the hydrogen thrusters will just keep it from crashing on the ground. And that's just how close it was to the ground when I deployed the parachutes. But there we go, it can survive me messing around with it, unlike the poor one sitting in the distance. And that's that, the CBC Surface Blue. So it's a lovely little ship if you are looking for a transport ship to play around with in your world. You could easily replace the inside with cargo containers if you wanted to, or if you have no one to transport, you could strip out the chairs, strip out some of the other stuff on there, put in a bunch of medium cargo containers, then you got yourself a small transport ship. But yes, like I said, that is that. There'll be a link to it in the description below if you do wish to download and play around with it yourself. I won't put a link to the skybox I'm currently using because it's currently not working. And I'll be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.